In the name of trying to make a slightly interesting South Park video, and maybe separating myself from being the real Jim's ripoff but for South Park, let's do something interesting for this video. We all know that South Park is the best show ever. I mean, after all, it's my personal favorite show, and you're watching my channel right now, you're in my domain, so what I say goes! No, but seriously, in all my years of watching the show, I've come to realize that there are lots of episodes that receive lots of recognition that they maybe don't deserve quite as much of. Don't take this video as me hating on your personal favorite episode if it happens to end up on this list, as I don't dislike any of the episodes in this video, except for one, but we'll get into that later. These are just episodes that I've noticed a significant chunk of the fan community have dubbed as top-tier episodes, and I would say maybe they need to be brought down a little bit more to earth. One slightly overrated episode that I know lots of you are going to agree with me on here is Scott Tenorman Must Die. Yep, saw that coming from a mile away. Yep, stock boo sound effect. I get it, I'm so awful. Now don't get me wrong, Scott Tenorman Must Die is a good episode, and it does deserve some of the recognition it gets. It is pretty much the birth of the cunning, manipulative version of Cartman we're used to seeing to this day. And I mean, really, when it comes to revolutionary aspects of this episode that compels people to put it at their top of their favorite episodes, that's about it. It seems that for a lot of people, the simple shock of having it turn out that Cartman indirectly had Scott's parents murdered and then fed it to him was enough for them to name this episode one of the best. Maybe I'm just being a little crybaby just like Scott Tenorman, but I just don't think it's justified to name this episode one of the all-time best just because of its ending. Let's just call it what it is, a perfectly good episode. It's not Matt and Trey's magnum opus, it's not a defining episode of South Park. It's just a fairly basic episode about two rivals constantly trying to one-up each other with one of them constantly being ahead of the other. It's almost like a crude Wile E. Coyote-esque cartoon with a fucked up twist, you know? Next up would be the Chin Pokemon episode. This might be one of those episodes that are just kind of lost on me just because I don't have any real strong feelings towards Pokemon. I get the impression I'd like this episode a lot more if I was either a fan of Pokemon or if I really hated it. It is funny though seeing how accurate the Chin Pokemon commercials are to real-life Pokemon commercials at that time. And the way the kids are acting right before they get completely brainwashed perfectly sums up every interaction I've had with a mega anime fan. There's really nothing bad to say about this episode. It's perfectly fine, just probably doesn't deserve to be ranked as highly as I see it get ranked. Sorry, tiny penis creatures. Okay, here's one that's going to rustle some jimmies. For my next entry in overrated South Park episodes, I'm going to list the entirety of the Coon trilogy. I think my big issue with this one is I listened to so many people hype this trilogy up for so long that when I finally got around to watching it, it just didn't live up to it. Cartman and Kenny playing superheroes always made sense to me. Kenny was actually kind of something of a legitimate superhero, and Cartman was just doing it for his ego. I know a lot of you are going to hate me for saying this, but I always thought that making all the other kids have superhero personas was kind of forced. Then again, watching the episode, that does sort of seem to be the point. You know, they get a lot of mileage out of the dumb superpowers that some of the kids come up with, and they found a clever little way to fit Professor Chaos into everything. I think my biggest problem with this trilogy is there's just too much weird on top of weird going on here. Stuff like introducing Captain Hindsight only to completely forget about him halfway through the trilogy, and all the Cthulhu stuff. And I'm tempted to list Mintberry Crunch here, but actually the ending totally makes Mintberry Crunch's existence worth it to me. I'm not sure if this is a hot take or anything, but I kinda wish they didn't explain Kenny's immortality here. It strikes me as one of those concepts that are just funnier left unexplained, you know? That being said, I do have to admit I giggled like a little girl at the thought of the McCormick parents attending the Cthulhu cult meetings. Especially when you consider that they didn't actually believe in any of it and they just went for the free drinks. But I don't know, it just seemed to me like Kenny coming back from death like nothing happened was a lot more fun when there was no explanation behind it. Cartman pretty much is the biggest saving grace of this trilogy. Seeing as this trilogy is more action and drama based than anything, we have Cartman here to pick up the slack in terms of comedy. And we all get a much appreciated fix of the goth kids, so this trilogy isn't bad. I guess I just wish it was funnier, but it does everything it sets out to do very well. And even if giving all the kids superhero personas felt pretty forced in the moment, it led to some pretty cool things down the line, so it's forgivable. Okay, here it comes. The Mac Daddy of overrated South Park episodes. The one episode on this list that I actually do dislike, and the one episode that I'm sure I'm gonna get lots of flack for not liking. Trey Parker wanted to kill himself over this episode until the reception he got back from it was overwhelmingly positive. So in a way, I guess its positive reception has a silver lining, but still, I don't like this episode. I am, of course, talking about Make Love Not Warcraft. Now, if I could just get you to lower your torches and pitchforks for just a moment, let me explain myself. There are funny aspects about this episode, like the boys all gradually becoming morbidly obese. Bathroom was pretty funny. I understand when this episode came out, World of Warcraft was pretty much taking the world by storm. But from the perspective of somebody who's never played World of Warcraft, this episode really doesn't have much going for it.
Oh, but you never played the game, so that means your opinion's invalid because you only get it if you've played the game!
Well, that pretty much proves my point right there, though. You don't want an episode of your TV show to completely alienate a bunch of people who have never experienced a kind of piece of media, right? I'm not saying they shouldn't have made an episode about World of Warcraft, but I'm saying it probably would have been better if they didn't go quite as referential and maybe fit in a B-plot. This episode really doesn't do that. If you've never played World of Warcraft, pretty much all you're getting is, hey, everyone's getting obsessed with World of Warcraft. I understand that Matt and Trey are huge video game fans, but I feel as though they've handled the video game fan side of things better in other episodes. Like with Red Dead Redemption 2 and Time to Get Cereal and Nobody Got Cereal in Season 22. Just like World of Warcraft, I've also never played Red Dead Redemption 2. So why exactly is it that I prefer South Park's usage of Red Dead Redemption 2 in the Season 22 examples? It has mostly to do with distribution of all the references. Make Love Not Warcraft is an entire episode dedicated to playing video games. It doesn't really lend itself well to a plot, right? I get that the joke is that there are pretty much no stakes in the episode and that everyone's taking this game way too seriously for no good reason. I can appreciate all that, but I just don't feel that that kind of plot lends itself well to an entire episode. I feel as though it should have been stuck on the B-plot of another episode. And that's exactly why I think the Red Dead Redemption 2 material works so much better in the serial episodes. Just like World of Warcraft, everybody in South Park is getting into Red Dead Redemption 2, and that's all anyone seems to want to talk about. In fact, it seems to have even more reach than World of Warcraft did. The difference is, instead of dedicating the entire plot to the video game, they instead have characters frequently mentioning Red Dead Redemption 2. Which is perfectly true to real life. If you were alive in late 2018, you'll remember that Red Dead Redemption 2 was pretty much all anyone ever wanted to talk about, ever. Having characters constantly mentioning how they'd much rather be at home playing Red Dead Redemption 2 was very much where the world was at the time. The closest we get to having this be on Make Love Not Warcraft levels is the B-plot between Detective Harris and his wife arguing about Red Dead Redemption 2. And my ideal version of Make Love Not Warcraft does the same thing. It would relegate the World of Warcraft stuff to a B-plot, hitting all the same beats and having all the same jokes, just not dedicating nearly as much time to it. That way it can still give some fan service to people who love World of Warcraft, but it doesn't also have to run the risk of alienating general audiences who don't give a fuck about that game. And there you have it, my teeny tiny minuscule list of overrated episodes of South Park. I might have my gripes with the South Park fan community, and I might not agree with all of them most of the time. But even though I consider all these episodes overrated, I still see the value in all of them, and I don't consider any of them bad. There really aren't too many overrated episodes, are there? What there are plenty of episodes that are overhated, but that's left for another video. And this is where I pass it off to you. Do you agree with me that these episodes are overrated? Do you disagree? What are the episodes of South Park that you think get too much recognition than they deserve? And that's it for me. I'm under investigation for stealing other people's content, apparently. So hasta la pasta.